Okay, good afternoon all. As with all good things, we begin with a word of prayer. Welcome to our special training for our newly elected chairmen, deputy chairs, and minority leaders. Please stand and we'll be led in prayer by our brother Nazimul Mohammed.
Shall we pray? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اجعل من قيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله آمين.
Amen. Please have your seats. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are live on our UNC Facebook page. Today is an important day in the party's activities because today the leaders of local government in all 7 of the regions led by the UNC are here to begin another part of the journey as we prepare for next 4 years governance. Today we have a special session and we will have several follow-up sessions. I am pleased to introduce, to bring greetings, the person who will lead today's session. And while the entire session will not be streamed live, we are happy to have a man who has years of experience in local government. He started as the chairman of the then St. Patrick County Council. He later served as the chairman, the mayor of Chaguanas for many years as a distinguished leader of the Central Borough of Chaguanas. He was a very effective minister of works and transport and a minister of local government. And at one time, both ministries were merged. And he was known to be one of the most effective ministers. And a lot of it had to do with his management, his strict management, and his efficiency in getting the job done. Because we know that when we go outside there, people don't want to hear old talk. People don't want to hear excuses. They want to know, can you help me? Can you get it done? And when it will get done. I served as a chairman of Tunapuna Piako Corporation while he was Minister of Local Government. And I can tell you, all of us who were chairman at that time, we learned so much from his leadership as a minister in effectively delivering to the people in terms of our projects, delivering on time and on budget, which is very important. At this time, I want to welcome to the podium Dr. Rambachan to bring some opening remarks before we go into our full session.
Thank you very much, Khadija. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for coming. Thank you for being here, giving up your time this afternoon. I just want to tell you, firstly, that this is not a training session. It will be a conversation. And I'm going to have this conversation around several agenda items, which I'll circulate in a moment. But let me also congratulate you on winning your seats and on being appointed to different positions. I know, appointments like these would always bring emotions, negative and positive. But as leaders now, you have to learn how to manage the people around you, whether they support you or whether they don't support you. Your duty and responsibility is to bring an end to the noise, to bring an end to any kind of negatives, and to build a team around you that will actually serve you, but more importantly, serve the interests of the United National Congress as we move forward to 2025. You are, in my view right now, the real face of the UNC. It is true that we have several members of Parliament who will be debating in Parliament, who will be engaged in exchanges with ministers and what have you. But you are the ones who are going to interface with the people who are going to make it happen for us in 2025. There is no doubt in my mind about that. And you have that capacity, you have that experience. You look around the room here and you'll see the number of years some of you have spent in local government, in battling issues, in quarreling with administrations. But at the end of the day, with love in your hearts, getting it done for on behalf of your constituents and burgesses. And I know you have worked hard. I've seen the kind of hard work that councillors put in. Being a mayor myself, an alderman in St. Patrick way back in 1983, which is now about 46 years, no, what, 40 years ago. You know, I've seen the development. And in a sense, I don't want to sound egotistic or anything, but I think I know what it takes to be successful in local government. And primarily, I think what it takes to be successful is to reduce the gap between what you promise people and what you deliver. What you promise people and what you deliver. It will be far better to be honest with people and tell them what you can do rather than promise them the moon and the sky and not able to deliver a star. But having said that, Mrs. Bisessa, our distinguished leader, invited me to come here today and to share some thoughts with you and to listen to what you also have to say in terms of your challenges and how you intend to go about this administration. The UNC and the leader in particular, by appointing you in the position she has appointed you, she has placed great faith in you. Great faith, great trust. And one of the things I want to ask you, in fact plead with you, even beg you, is not to betray that trust, not to betray that faith that she has placed in you. The leader, by placing that faith and trust in you, is also saying to you that along with her members of parliament, you will be the force that will inspire the population out there to want to follow us into government in 2025. We need very desperately to find that key that will inspire 700,000 persons who didn't vote in local government elections, and maybe about 350,000 who do not vote in the general elections to come and vote for us. What is that key? How do we inspire them to do that? And as leaders, which you are, and I'm addressing you as leaders, Haiku, as leaders, one thing leaders do is inspire people. If you're not inspiring people, you're not going to get people to move with you. And inspiration comes from when you can define a cause that people can gravitate around. The United States in its war against Vietnam were never able to defeat the Vietnamese people because the Vietnamese people had a cause. And they coalesced around that cause. One of the questions you have to ask is, what is your cause? What is the cause that you're standing up for? What is it? What is that cause that you're standing up for? It could be simple things, it could be complex things, it could be a combination of things. But you need in your own mind to say, what is that cause? What is that cause we are standing up for now in Trinidad and Tobago? It is really, really difficult for me to understand that in a country that has collapsed, it has collapsed, a judiciary that has collapsed, a police service in which recently someone went to report a home invasion and the policeman is telling them, you know, if people come to invade your house, give them something so that they wouldn't hurt you. And that was the police solution. And when you reach that level of thinking, you realize that there's a collapse, not only institutionally, but in terms of the people who are there to do a job in the country. WASA has collapsed. The only thing that seems to be holding a bit is TNTech at the moment. So around you, with all of this collapse that's taking place, why is it that people still gravitate to the PNM? Why are they still gravitating to the PNM? What it is that we have to do that will shift the focus away from the PNM and put their minds on us. Look, you have done very well and with the coordinators like in Grandy and what have you. You have done very well to maintain a 7-7 in this election and also to gain ground. And you ought to be congratulated for that. You have done extremely well. But you also have to ask the question, while we have held on to where we are strong, we need to grasp where we have to win those 3 or 4 seats, and in the corridor in particular. I have been part of that experience, I want to tell you. I had joined the ONR in 1980 while standing opposite Republic Bank on the pavement, and Carl Hudson Phillips was giving a speech, and Gerard Yetming came across. I was a consultant at the Royal Bank in 1980, and said, listen, we don't have a speaker here this evening. Can you come and make a speech on the platform? And I walked across and made a half-hour speech, and I ended up being the deputy political leader of the ONR. But that is not the point. I knew what it took to campaign out there and to try to get people to shift, to change, to move from where they were. And in some of the very ULF constituencies, we got 5,000 votes, 4,000 votes, which was incredible because it showed that people wanted to change. And then we took that to the accommodation with that big meeting in Debe in 1983, which then resulted in the NAR. But we had found the key. We had found the key. People wanted something fresh. They wanted something new. What we have to do is to find out what is that newness that they want. And you are the people to do that. Not just Mrs. Bisessa. You are the people to do that. Because you are the ears down there on the ground, and you are the eyes also that seeing and hearing what's happening. And that feedback you have to be. The problem is this, as I see it. There are 2 problems we have. One is the everyday attacks on our political leader. The everyday attacks. And unfortunately, we have allowed that to perpetuate itself. If you realize, because of those attacks, I have come to realize that the leader is much stronger than even she believes she is. That the leader is even more stronger than she believes she is. The media houses, the Martin Dailies, all of them seem to want her out. Why? Why do they want her out? In a landscape, political landscape, in which maybe 3,000 or as low as 1,200 votes would separate the parties. A couple of seats would separate the parties. Why do they want her out? Because she still remains the strongest voice against the PNM in this country. She still remains the strongest voice. Why would the media do that? You have to ask yourself that question very, very seriously. Why are they trying to destroy Kamala Prasad Bisessa, who has less faults than a Keith Rowley, who has less faults than a Hines, who has less faults than so many of the others? And why are we allowing that conversation to dominate our minds, that we too somehow think and believe that this leader is not appropriate for the occasion? Age has nothing to do with it. Age has nothing to do with it. Biden is not no young man. What has to do with it is, are we as the leaders here, are we echoing enough with her vision, and are we speaking that vision, living that vision out there for the people? If we have to shift people, we have to shift them with a new conversation about who we are, and what is our purpose, and what is our cause as the United National Congress. No one else will do it for us. We have to do that. So the UNC, the leadership issue, we have to be very brutal. I admire people who have gone into the internal elections and fought against Mrs. Bisessa. I admire them, and you have to admire them. Anybody who puts up his or her name to contest an internal election for leadership, we must congratulate them, because they are showing that they also have some strength in them. But the thing is, in a democracy, one vote makes the difference between who wins and who loses. And if we live by a democracy, no one has been able to defeat Kamala Prasad Bisessa as yet. And therefore, she remains the leader. Why is it that Kamala Prasad Bisessa has been able on all occasions to keep mobilizing thousands of people to vote for her compared to a couple hundred for people who oppose her? Why? One, because you support her. And also because of she still carries charisma. That is important. The second point that I want to make to you that is dominating in my view, the discussion out there, is the attempts that I feel are being made to tell people that the UNC is not a sustainable party. And because it's not a sustainable party, it cannot govern in the country. And think about it carefully. If you listen to commentators who are paid to comment on the radio and to certain groups of writers who write on their social media and so on, you will see that they are trying to say that the UNC is incapable of governing the country. And what has been our response to that? What has been our response to that? We have to respond by showing what we are capable of doing in the future and what we have done in the past. What we have done in the past. And as a People's Partnership government, we performed. There's no question about that. We performed. And we performed very well. I do not know now, in your experience, and I'll come to it, in local government, how long it takes you to get releases from the ministry after the budget is passed. But in my time, by the time the budget was passed, within 30 days you were getting releases. Because we had pre-planned everything from the month of February of that year coming down. And as there was a certain level of efficiency we drove into the project management division of the Ministry of Local Government, that there was no excuse for them saying, well, we haven't checked the project, so we haven't done this and haven't done that. So I'm just saying that as an aside because I'll come to it. You have to show that you are prepared with what you have to prepare. So they are not going to say that you are the ones who are inefficient, or you are the ones who have not presented documents, or you are not. And that brings me to a very important point. Is this that we have to present local government in our corporations and influence in corporations like yours a factor of effectiveness and the factor of efficiency. We must be blue-eyed local government corporations. And therefore, one of the things we have to sit down and say is this: what is the old paradigm that we operated under that will not get us there, and what it is that we need to surgically get rid of, and what it is we need to embrace in the new paradigm of local government? And these are searching questions, because the local government election has come and gone. And I want to tell you that before I came here, for the last couple of days after the leader invited me, I started to talk to people in different administrations, including one or two of the PNM, but mostly in our corporation. And the general response I got, you know what was? Tell me. Business as usual. We have to fracture that culture. We have to fracture that culture. And we have to dictate what is the new culture that we want for our corporations. That takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of bravery, it takes a lot of courage, and you're not going to be liked for wanting to fracture a culture. But if you don't fracture that culture, you're going to find that 4 years will go and there's little you're going to be remembered for in those 4 years. You have to fracture the culture. Really, really fracture the culture. So, I think that you can lead a new paradigm. You can do that. I think you have a capability to do it, right? But you also have to define and say, what is the old paradigm under which I've been operating? Is this working for me? Is it not working for me? And if not, what do I have to discard and what do I have to embrace? So, I think we have a great party. I think this party is capable of going back into government. I think that there are people out there who do not want to see this party back into government. And I think that we're going to be fighting a battle. But we have to stand up and also say what we have done, how we have done it, and we got to somehow sing our own praises, which we are not doing. We do not have the media on our side for that. We do not have the media on our side for that. You look at it very carefully during the local government elections, the media wasn't really giving us the kind of push that we deserve and so on. As a political party in parliament, we have protected this country against dictatorship. People say that we do not support the laws that the PNM is bringing before the parliament and what have you. But our parliamentarians, they have, and the leader, have been analyzing those laws in the interest of our people. In the interest of our people. But how many of us are selling that as our message to the population from what we are protecting them against? So I am asking you to lift your own imagination beyond where you are in local government, to begin to see your party as the next government and begin to sell your party as the next government. In other words, do not sell your party as the party in opposition. Sell your party as the alternative government. The alternative government. That is what we have to do, and that's how we have to change the conversation and change the language. Language does not describe yesterday. Language does not describe today. Language creates the future, and therefore we have to have a choice in the language we use in what we do. So I welcome this opportunity, and I want to tell you that I think you can do it. I think in your corporations you can create extremely viable, efficient, effective corporations that people are going to look up to and say, hey, wait, these guys are doing something. Remember, the MPs cannot do what you can do. You are the delivery arm of the UNC at this point in time. It's only through you that our work is going to be seen. Only through you it's going to be seen. And the one thing I want to tell you, do not think that PNM councillors are your friends. Don't fall victim for that, please. They're going to sit with you, they're going to eat with you, they're going to drink with you, they're going to listen to you, and they're going to sell you out. Right? Don't do that. At all. This is a war. This is a war, and it's a war of attrition. It's either they wear you down or you wear them down. It's a war of attrition. I know about wars of attrition. I fought many wars of attrition myself. Now, let me show you how things can be done. Permit me to just show you something. When I became chairman of the St. Patrick County Council, people were burning bodies on the creek. And one day I was burning my own uncle, and water came up at 6 o'clock in the evening and out the fire. Next morning we had to go back and restart that fire and burn that body. At that time there were plans within the regional corporation, St. Patrick, to build a new cremation site and what have you. And I took that opportunity along with Mr. Kim Chan Ramdat, an excellent CEO. And we built that site on the hill there, Show of Peace. And that's how it came about, right? Today, Show of Peace, after that, became almost a model for the Waterloo cremation site, the Mayaro cremation site, which is an excellent product that they have developed there, and so on. So we can do things. Now, people said, why so much emphasis then on the cremation site? But every day hundreds of people were going there. And if they remember me for something, they probably remember me for the Show of Peace. But it's an example of how you want to be remembered. Because one of the questions I was going to ask you is, how would you like to be seen at the end of every year of your office over the next 4 years? How would you like to be seen? When I became mayor of Chaguanas, every year I used to see in the budget, administrative buildings, 10 million. Every year, you'll see it there. So I went to Mr. Dumas in my first month of office, and I said, I used to call him Stretch. I said, Mr. Dumas, what are you doing with this $10 million? He says, what $10 million? So we have $10 million here in the budget for administrative buildings. He says, yeah, show me. Serious, this is a serious conversation I'm telling you here. So I showed him. So he didn't get back to me, so next month I went back again. I said, Mr. Dumas, as local government minister, what will you be remembered for when you finish as a minister? And before he answered, I'd say, what, some roads that will collapse and some drains that will have mud in them? What do you remember it for? So he said, what do you mean? I said, come now, let's design some administrative centers now. And so by that time, I had a mock-up of, what I wanted as a town hall. And he said, okay. And the man took me seriously because he realized in his mind, I'm going to be remembered for a town hall. You understand what happened? You make your idea his idea. You're not going to lose anything. This is how you win people. You can't be selfish in a leadership position. The more you share your ideas and the more you empower people around you, the more you're going to be successful. And that happened. It happened right there. There are many stories I can tell you. I can tell you a story of feedback, but I wouldn't say it on the camera. I can tell you a story of the beach sand volleyball court, which is now an Olympic training facility, and how that came about. And went down to the river, way down in Londonville, and dug sand with an excavator until we got a sand that was tested by Petrotrin as closest to beach sand, and built that. And became a volleyball court first, and what have you. It can be done. And it must be done. You understand? In opposition in the St. Patrick County Council, in opposition, in that 2.5 years I was there, we built 17 pavilions. 17 pavilions in 2 years. In opposition. It can be done. But if we spend our time in toilet paper issues, we are not going to get anything done. If we waste our time within our councils in irrelevancies rather than the core issues, we are not going to get anything. And one of the things we'll have to define as councils is what it is you want to achieve over the next 4 years. I was delighted. I smiled. I laughed. I went home and I told my wife, I said, I heard a young man on radio today, and I just felt that there was hope again. And I'm speaking of Ryan Rampersad. And Ryan was talking to the Chamber of Commerce, and it was in the media, and you announced a project that could create 100 jobs, and the refurbishing of the Inshan Ali Park and so on. Wonderful. All you got to do is get it done now. Because I want to tell you, I took land back from Mid-Center Mall and created booths there, right? So that people, about 30 or 40 people got jobs there. And there was one lady, and she had a booth right here selling roti in the corner, when you come by the Medford gas station, right? And they broke her down. Ministry of Works broke her down. And I gave her a booth there. And that lady was able to send 2 children to university with that booth there. So, you understand where I'm coming from, right? So, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. It can be done. Not because you're in opposition means it cannot be done. Your negotiation skills are important. Your vision is important. Your purpose is important. Brian, as I described that project for you, it leads me to something I love saying. Vision is good, but vision without action remains a hallucination. And a lot of people only have vision, but they have no action. They talk a talk, but they can't walk the walk. And you could walk the walk. I know Ryan. I worked with Ryan when I was a minister of local government, and I know what Ryan is capable of doing, and so on. So I like that kind of thing coming out. I hope that can come out in more of the corporations in terms of a vision for what you want and so on. So with those few words, I want to bring that introduction to an end to compliment the leader on her good choices she has made with the appointments. And I have an agenda here which both of us, myself and her, agreed upon. And help me distribute. Yeah. And we're going to work around this agenda. It's a series of questions that I'm going to ask. I'm not in a training session in a formal sense, but it's going to be a very deep, reflective session. But there are some important things in here that we need to do. Remember what I said? You cut me off now, right?
Yeah, I will. So we want to thank Dr. Ramachan for those opening remarks to put this session into perspective. And I know that a lot of people have joined us on the UNC Facebook Live, so we want to thank those people for joining us. We will close the opening session now,